Hello and welcome to the regular business meeting for the District of Squamish for Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. We're gathered here to do this work on the Squamish Nation traditional territory. And please be advised that this council meeting is being live streamed, recorded, and will be available to the public to view on the District of Squamish website following the meeting. If you have concerns, please notify the corporate officer present at the meeting. Could I have someone move adoption of the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor French, second by Councillor Greenlaw. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. First order of business is a delegation. We've got a proclamation request for National Volunteer Week, and we have some folks here to speak to it. So it's Diana Gunstone and Michelle Balch. Oh, it's close. But thank you so much for being here tonight, and the floor is yours.
Wonderful. And I'll try and keep within the 5 minutes. What I'd like to do is just give a little bit of a background and then ask for read the proclamation. So my name's Diana and this is Michelle, and the two of us have been working with an amazing subset of our nonprofits, an organizing team of representing Squamish Helping Hands, the Food Bank, the Welcome Center, our Squamish, and Sea to Sky Hospice Society. And we are organizing as a subset an event to celebrate volunteers during National Volunteer Week. And we are hosting a Squamish Volunteer Celebration for 2023, thanks to a community enhancement grant that was received for this event from the Squamish Community Foundation. So this is part of a nationwide National Volunteer Week event, which takes place during April 16th to 22. And the theme of the National Volunteer Week is volunteering weaves us together. So our Squamish Volunteer Celebration will be held at Junction Park and Oseum Pavilion on April 21st, and that's the Friday of the National Week. And we will be hosting an evening between 5 and 7 p.m. where local nonprofits, community groups, service organizations will host their individual tables. There'll be various activities, and the event is intended to celebrate all the volunteers in our community. And bring awareness, we hope, to the volunteer culture and grow that culture in Squamish. It's an opportunity for organizations to show their appreciation for their individual volunteers, for volunteers at large, and to share more about the work that they're doing in community. And it's open for all. There will be music and food from Peak Provisions in our Squamish. And the music will be through performances of Cam Saleh's school, what does he call it? Cam Saleh's Brackendale School of Fun Arts, so young performers as well. Everyone in the community is invited to join this free celebration, and it's a great opportunity to learn more about all the work of the organizations and volunteers in our town. And there's no tickets or registration. It's not too late. Michelle's been coordinating all of the nonprofits who want to, or volunteer groups who want to have a table, and they can register. There's information available for that. So tonight we would like to ask your consideration to proclaim the week, National Volunteer Week, April 16th to the 22nd. And whereas 24 million Canadians give their time through formal or informal types of volunteering, contributing close to 5 billion volunteer hours per year. And whereas volunteers in Squamish mentor our children, they support those feeling isolated, they beautify our green spaces, lobby for food security, the environmental crisis, fundraise for other charitable organizations, whereas volunteers in Squamish have stepped up during the COVID-19 pandemic to support families, friends, neighbors, and strangers, and people standing up to systemic racism, people sharing insights how to create a more just and equitable society. Whereas Squamish volunteers are individuals, their families, their workers, their retirees, their youth, their children, of all ages and all backgrounds and all cultures. And whereas the collective result of the work done by our local volunteers creates a more desirable place to live, and I believe a more compassionate place. Whereas organizations in Squamish rely on volunteers, such as fundamental community organizations as Sea to Sky Community Services, Squamish Helping Hands Society, the Squamish Food Bank, Under One Roof, Street Reach, Better at Home, Our Squamish, Welcome Center, Sea to Sky Hospice Society, the Environment, Squamish Environment Society, Squamish Trail Society, SORCA, Squamish Can, Squamish Rotary, Squamish Multi-Faith Association, the Lions Club, Squamish Search and Rescue, and many sports clubs, Sea to Sky Nordics, Squamish Soccer, Hockey, Baseball, and many, many more valuable organizations and clubs. And so I therefore ask you, Mayor Herford and Council, to proclaim April 16th to the 22nd, 2023 as National Volunteer Week. And I urge our fellow community members to recognize the crucial role played by volunteers in our community and to support us, Squamish nonprofits, community organizations, and clubs on Friday, April 21st, between 5 and 7 p.m. at Junction Park and Ocean Pavilion to celebrate our dedicated community volunteers. So we do have an invitation that I will send out, if that's okay, to, I believe Jenny and I corresponded. I would love to send a copy of a press release. And I would hope that you'll accept that proclamation. And I invite all of you to come out and participate and see what's going on the 21st. We're grateful for the use of the park, and we hope that perhaps you might even consider putting our poster in your e-news communications out to the community.
Hey,
Thank you.
thank you very much, and you did an excellent job of maximizing your 5 minutes. There was a lot in there. Council, do we have any questions for our guests, or I'm happy to entertain a motion if there are no questions. Seeing no questions, would someone like to move the proclamation? Moved by Councillor Stoner. Was that seconded by Councillor Greenlaw? Would you like to speak to it? Yep, go ahead.
I would be honored to speak to this motion. Thank you so much for being here tonight, for all the work that you bring to supporting the volunteerism in our community and highlighting all the opportunities amongst our nonprofits and our societies. The list that you had was long. And I think the words that you shared in terms of the impact that volunteerism has really in creating that desirable and compassionate community really is, it really creates the fabric of what it is that we call community. And so I am so happy to put this motion forward to recognize April 16th to 22nd as National Volunteer Week. I know many of our community organizations really do struggle to try and create that network of volunteers to help support them throughout the years. And so whatever we can do to elevate that interest in volunteerism is so critical. And it sounds like it'll be a phenomenal program that you have set up in the 21st. And so welcome for our community. I am very sad to say that I won't be here in town that day, but I will be there in spirit to celebrate. And thanks for all the work that you and all the volunteers in our community do.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll venture my own. Thank you so much for the work that you do and for bringing this proclamation forward. I'm happy to support that. I'm going to do my best to be at the event, and really just to build on Councillor Stoner's words around what volunteerism means to the community. I don't think we have community without volunteering to help each other out, and so this is a very crucial piece of what makes Squamish such a wonderful place to be. Is all the hard work that you and the folks associated with all our volunteer organizations do. So thank you so much for bringing this forward. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. And as to the pieces of communication stuff, you're welcome to leave that with one of our staff, or you can pass it over to us electronically, and we'll make sure it gets to the right place. So your preference. If someone wants to put their hand up there we go. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So moving on, we have another proclamation request for International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia. And we don't have a delegation for this one. So moved by Councillor French, and I'll second that. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor French? Go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. It's proclamations like this one that I think are particularly important for me and for people in our community who are currently being impacted by homophobia or transphobia, or could in the future experience homophobia or transphobia. And it's proclamations like this one that highlight what we have in common: male, female, dark skinned, light skinned, tall, short, brown eyed, blue eyed. Doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, what we all have in common is that we're all human. And proclamations like this one celebrate our differences and reinforce one important thing that we share, and that's that we're all human. As a parent who is learning every day how to support a transgender family member, it's important to make it clear for members of our community who are intolerant or violence prone or closed minded that we all are human. And on Wednesday, May 17th, we have an opportunity to consciously take a moment to reflect on what it is to be human, whatever our gender, whatever our skin color, no matter our height, our country of origin, our religion, our eye color, or any other unique identifier, and become grounded in the fact that we can celebrate those differences while being present to our own humanity. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm happy to support this motion. I think when I reflect on news coming out of the United States right now, it just makes me incredibly sad. And I'm happy to be in a place where this proclamation feels like a no-brainer around this table. And but it does take ongoing work to not only defend where we are, but advance these topics. So I'm happy to take that work on, and I'll be supporting the motion. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Consideration of unscheduled public attendance. If anyone has a matter that they feel can't wait to the next regular scheduled meeting, this would be the time to raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll move on. We have no public hearings this evening. Our sort of regular scheduled items, there's nothing there. So under consent agenda, is there anyone would like to pull anything from the consent agenda? Oh, Councillor Hamilton, yep.
I'd like to pull item 7C1, staff update, budget, public engagement timing memo.
Okay. We can do that. Anything else? Oh, Councillor French.
Yeah, I'd like to pull the emergency expenditure Brennan Pool Deck Air Unit memo, please.
Okay, and then we will deal with both of those under item 13. So we'll circle back to those a little bit later. So with both of those pulled, would someone, Councillor Stoner moves the consent agenda, seconded by Councillor French. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on now, we're on to adoption. We've got the fees and charges bylaw as it relates to the short-term rental update. And do we have, it's just adoption. We don't have, yeah, okay, thank you. I just had staff names noted on mine, so I wanted to make sure that, so you're moving that, Councillor Stoner, seconded by Councillor French. Any comments? Nope. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next is the 5-year financial plan bylaw amendment. So this is to deal with carry forwards, and moved by Councillor Stoner. I'll second that. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. So next we have item 10.1 is District of Squamish Code of Conduct bylaw. And we'll give Ms. Pollock a section to get from, she's going to be multitasking here to run us through this. Okay, over over to you. Sorry, microphone share. There you go.
Good evening, Council. My name's Charlene Pollock. I'm the Manager of Legislative Services, and I'm here with Robin Arthurs, General Manager of Corporate Services. And the purpose of bringing the Code of Conduct bylaw to Council this evening is to receive direction from Council on whether a further review and possible amendments should be brought forward to a future Committee of the Whole meeting. The Community Charter requires that members of Council turn their minds to a review, even if there is a Code of Conduct in place. Okay, so this slide speaks to the legislation requirements in the community charter. And I just spoke to the requirement that council must turn their mind even if there is a code of conduct in place. And if council decides not to review the existing code of conduct, it must make available to the public on request a statement respecting the reasons for the decision. And if the decision is to not review the code of conduct at this time, council must consider whether to review the bylaw before January of the year of the next election, so before January 2026. So I'm going to run through a quick overview of the code of conduct bylaw, and then we'll turn the discussion over to council. Okay, so background. The original Code of Conduct policy was approved by Council in 2016. And the policy was very general in nature, and it was recognized that it could benefit from being expanded upon, and also that a bylaw allows more certainty and is more enforceable. Staff started working on the draft Code of Conduct bylaw in early 2022. And Council reviewed the bylaw, staff received input, came forward to a committee of the whole prior to coming to council for first 3 readings and then finally adoption. Okay, so this slide speaks to more background. There was a joint working group on responsible conduct that was formed, and the working group included members from UBCM, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, and the Local Government Management Association. And then Bill 26 received royal assent on November 25th, requiring all local governments to publicly consider whether to establish a new code of conduct or revise an existing one. And then language was included in the community charter in 2022. This slide speaks to the intent of the code of conduct. So outlines expected behavior at meetings, in the community, and in social media, reinforces the importance of respectful and responsible leadership, sets a high bar for conduct. The intent is to ensure a fair, honest, and respectful environment amongst members of council, staff, and committee members, represents one of the strongest codes of conduct in the province, and is essential for good governance. So the District of Squamish is mentioned on the UBCM website under the Code of Conduct as a bylaw to look at for municipalities that are looking to draft a code of conduct. And I will note, I have been contacted by a number of municipalities that have asked for a copy of the bylaw, as they think it's a very good bylaw and would like to draft something similar. And it was also noted at the recent Corporate Officers Convention. So I think that's why I've had a number of municipalities reaching out to me. Okay, so who does the bylaw apply to? Council members and committee members. It doesn't apply to the conduct of staff. Council, committee members, and staff may submit a confidential request to file a complaint if they believe they've been subject to conduct that is in breach of the bylaw, and it does not include a process for the public, although concerns can be brought forward through our complaint process and brought to the attention of the CAO or the corporate officer. So quick overview of the Code of Conduct, and I'm not going to get into details. The bylaw has been included with the report.
Part 2 speaks to standards and values, foundational principles. Part 3 is conduct of elected officials. Part 4 includes the complaint and resolution procedures, and that includes an informal and formal resolution, adjudication, reporting, remedies, reporting out to the public, and effect on remuneration pursuant to the remuneration bylaw. And Part 5 speaks to the appointment of an investigator. And the related bylaws include the council procedure bylaw. Wording was included in the procedure bylaw regarding conduct at meetings. And the council remuneration bylaw includes reduced remuneration in the event that a member contravenes the code of conduct bylaw, and the reduction increases if there's more than one breach, and the respectful workplace policy. Communication. Following adoption of the code of conduct bylaw and the accompanying bylaws, the district issued a press release in September 2022. Information is included on the district website, including background and links to the bylaws. And as I mentioned, the code of conduct is known at the local government level. Next steps include staff are working on a policy which will provide additional support to the bylaw, which includes steps in filing a complaint, and we're also putting some complaint forms together, and we will bring these forward to council when they're ready for review. And the bylaw will be listed on a future committee of the whole meeting if council would like to review and amend the bylaw. So the report includes 2 options. There's option 1, which is that council has determined that a review of the code of conduct bylaw is not required at this time with the following reasons. So we need reasons included, as it is a requirement in the legislation that we make this publicly available, and that council reconsider the decision to review the District of Squamish Code of Conduct bylaw prior to January 2026. And option 2 is that council directs staff to bring the code of conduct bylaw back to a future committee of the whole meeting for review and to discuss possible amendments. Thank you. That's it for my presentation.
Thank you so much. Council. Any questions on this? Seeing none. Any comment? Go ahead, Councillor French.
I have a motion on standby if you're ready for it.
Okay, hold on just one second. I saw Councillor Pettingill's hand up. Councillor Pettingill, did you have a question here, or are you looking for a motion, in which case Councillor French beat you to the punch? I just want to make sure we have room for a question if you have it.
No, Councillor French beat me.
Okay, we'll run with that. Would you like to second Councillor French's, or be ready? He's going to read his motion. Yeah, go ahead.
You might want to hear it first. Okay. And I have this sitting in an email message to Ms. Pollock. So the motion is that council has determined that a review of the District of Squamish Code of Conduct bylaw number 2919/2022 is not required at this time because the bylaw is not yet utilized or tested. And further, that council reconsidered the decision to review District of Squamish Code of Conduct bylaw number 2919/2022 prior to January 1st, 2026.
Okay, that's the motion. We're looking for a seconder? Go ahead. Okay, Councillor Hamilton seconds. Go ahead, Councillor French.
Thank you. And I will speak to it. So one of the reasons for creating a code of conduct is to have a tool that acts as a deterrent aimed at preventing members of council from even contemplating acting in a way that can be construed as ethically questionable or causing mistrust between elected officials and residents, taxpayers, and other stakeholders in our community. These scenarios can develop quite quickly as we've seen in at least 5 BC communities where strife at the council level is causing significant distraction. Thankfully, we're not one of those communities. This bylaw has cleared an important hurdle already, namely the 2022 election and then the early months of this council term. And I credit the early success of this council term in Squamish to the quality of the individuals sitting at this table and the staff implementing the council decisions that are made. So I'm confident that if in the unlikely event that this council begins to struggle with conduct issues, this so far untested bylaw will serve us well. And I look forward to some point in 2025 when I anticipate we'd review this bylaw.
Thank you. I have got Councillor Stoner and then Councillor Pettingill.
Thank you. Through the chair, I will support the motion, although I would have liked to see some stronger language in the resolution about why it is that we are supporting this. And so I'll make it in my comments. For me, something that Ms. Pollock mentioned, this represents one of the strongest codes of conduct in the province at this time. It is continuously held up as a model bylaw for how codes of conduct should be written. And it's one of the few that actually has teeth to it because it's been tied to the remuneration bylaw. So yes, it is not yet tested, but I do also think it's one of the leading in the province. So for me, that is the reason why I'll be supporting it this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pettingill.
Yeah, thanks. I'd like to test an amendment, which is to change the review date prior to August 2024, and I will speak to it if seconded.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Pettingill.
Yeah, thanks. So my rationale here is not that we actually, I would anticipate we'll need to change it that quickly, but I think the real strength or value in this is when we are sort of actively and frequently reading it, reviewing it. And so I think by having it on the agenda, roughly yearly, it gives council the direction and space to review it and think about it and to keep it fresh in the public's mind as well to help with that accountability piece. And so it's my thought process again is just to sort of on an annual basis, have this on an agenda, have everyone reading it so it's fresh in our minds because it's that keeping it, our shared principles and values and expectations of each other fresh, that is the real strength in this. I think it's sort of if we get to a point where we're having to enforce with remuneration and so on, we're in a bit of trouble. And so hopefully by keeping things fresh, we can avoid that.
Thank you. Council, on the amendment, do you have any comments, thoughts? Shorter review time? Go ahead, Councillor French.
Thanks, Mayor. I won't be supporting the amendment. I just think that our staff has more important things to do than review this particular bylaw on an annual basis.
Councillor Stoner.
Thank you. Through the chair, while I appreciate the intent of what you're trying to do, Councillor Pettingill, I'm not sure if it necessarily an annual revision of the bylaw is necessarily the most effective way to do that. I think that goes back to talking about how we build the team around the council table and how we address conflict as it arises. I think that there's always the opportunity to bring the bylaw back for reconsideration if we're seeing that it's not actually meeting the needs that we need it to. But I'm not necessarily certain that holding it on an agenda on an annual basis gives us in this forum necessarily the space that we need to actually do that relationship building and testing that is so dependent for creating a good foundation for good conduct around the council table. So I'm happy to hear my other colleagues' comments on this, but I'm not 100% sold yet.
Go ahead, Councillor Greenlaw.
I was just going to pretty much second what Councillor Stoner just said. I do think this is a document that should be kind of fresh and in the forefront of everyone's minds. And as long as it is open for opportunity that it is brought up as problems arise, then I think that should be sufficient. Thank
you. Any other comments on the amendment before I venture mine? I appreciate the intent and sort of the end goal of keeping this code of conduct sort of fresh in all of our minds and fresh in the community's minds. But I don't like I won't be supporting it. I feel it's just too prescriptive as to how and when that happens. I think this is something that is incumbent on all of us to consult as we as we need going forward, but also to spread throughout the throughout the community, so that the community understands the standards that we are holding ourselves to. So I won't be supporting the amendment at this point. Thank you. Seeing no other comments, I'll call the question on. Now this is on the amendment. All in favor? Opposed? Amendment fails. So we're back to the main. Oh, sorry. And Councillor Pettingill opposes. Or sorry. Other way around. It's been a long day already. I'm sorry, team. So Councillor French, Hamilton, Stoner, Hereford, Greenlaw, and Anderson opposed. Motion fails. So now we're back to the main motion. Any other comments on the main motion before I venture mine? Okay. I'm happy to support this. I think this piece of work is very important, and it is among, if not the strongest in the province. So we have a lead in this important area, and I had the pleasure of speaking at a LGLA conference with Ms. Glende on this particular topic to other elected officials in our province, and to discuss the importance of taking on this work. Just because this policy is untested, as we've heard earlier, does not mean that it hasn't had an impact already inside this room and to the discourse, the political discourse around our community. So this policy also communicates to our staff the level of that they should expect when they come into this room. And I really hope that Squamish can continue to have effective councils with strong political debate, but staying on the right side of these codes of conduct, so we can actually move our community forward in a meaningful way. And I know that it's already had an impact outside of this community in the ways that staff outlined for us earlier, as others look to us for leadership in this area. And I'm happy that to be a part of that. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Okay. So now we have no late agenda items and nothing in for item 12. So now under item 13 is where I'll bring back the two staff updates for information. And as these were memos to council, we don't have the staff here to speak to these. So just be mindful of that as we go through this. And I think it was, it was Councillor Hamilton. I think you went first. So we'll go with and yours was the budget public engagement timing memo, right? Correct? Okay, over to you.
Thanks very much, Chair. So I absolutely, I like a lot of what we see in the public engagement process proposed by staff for our budget. I think the budget is an immensely important part of what we do here in council. And I think that what I'd like to propose is a strengthening of what we're doing by proposing a budget presentation akin to the budget night that we host in November. I don't know if it's traditionally November or it was just this in an election cycle was in November. But I'd like to propose that the mayor present the draft budget to the community in a town hall style presentation that walks the community through the important numbers of the budget, highlights the limitations and opportunities in that year's budget, and that council and the core leadership team are present and available to answer questions. I think this would promote community trust, to empower and educate the community on the budget opportunities and challenges, and further deepen our own accountability in the decisions that we make about the budget. I think from a perspective of timing, this would need to come at some point when a draft budget exists, when a draft budget is in place, but there's still time to accommodate some reasonable feedback received during this town hall style. So it's unclear to me what process would need to be launched to even have a discussion about this. If staff would need to consider this and bring it back to a council or a committee of the whole, that would be perfectly fine with me. If we don't have time, obviously we don't have time allocated at this meeting, so that would be suitable in my mind.
Thank you. I think that as presented, we have budget information night in November as the general comment, and I could see what you're discussing sort of fitting into. It needs to be there for timing. That's the same timing we need to have a draft budget to discuss at that point. So perhaps as we get closer to that, that could be brought up just in the discussion of planning what that budget information night means. It would be just a different way of conveying the information that we have, and might just be a different venue to facilitate a broader discussion. So I don't know that I don't think that right now we need to provide anything with this, but I think it's important to have raised it at this point. And then as we go through the process, we can discuss what happens at that night. Now, the other way to do it would be to put a motion forward specifically to discussing a piece of this engagement. If you're not, if that's not, if you'd like to take a more specific action, then that would be a way to do that. Either way, I think we could get there. So
I would like to hear from staff if this is feasible, and I'd like to have staff consider it, and I'd like to hear my council colleagues' opinion on whether this is something that they would like to see.
okay, council, any other comments on this? Sorry. Oh, sorry. Do I have Councillor Pettingill waving his arms at me? No. Did you have one? Go ahead, Councillor Anderson.
I may not be alone.
Sorry, we need your microphone.
Oh, it's not working. Thank you. Mayor Herford, I appreciate Councillor Hambleton's suggestion. I'm not sure that I myself am sold on a draft budget presentation, but I would draw attention to the fact that in years past, and I am going back a few years, to the fall of 2010, when the district hosted a Budget 101 workshop open to the community, and the Eagle Eye Theatre was substantially full. And I think that those of us who participated or recall the event, including staff, felt that that was a very worthwhile event. So while it's not precisely the type of event Councillor Hamilton is referring to, a Budget 101 informative orientation session for the public that would illustrate how the budget is put together, how the capital plan and other elements of the financial plan are put together, might be a useful consideration for us to revisit sometime in future. That event was remembered by those who took part in it. If I'm not mistaken, there have been similar types of Budget 101 orientation initiatives since then as well.
Go ahead, Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. So I'd like to perhaps propose a motion that we bring forward discussion in the next in a future committee of the whole, doesn't need to be the next, a future committee of the whole meeting to discuss the possibility of expanding the budget night to include a public presentation and budget information presentation. Okay. Are you second? And second by Councillor Stoner. Do we need any more comments on it? I think that's pretty clear. In that case, we'll call the vote. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much.
And Councillor French, the emergency expenditure Brennan Park pool.
Thank you, Mayor. I had some questions and feedback from the community, from community members on this. So I'm pulling it. I have some questions I'm anticipating. We likely won't have the answers tonight because the staff aren't here. I'll pose the questions. If we do have the answers at hand, great. And if we don't, at least they have been presented. So question number one. Out of the staff report, there's a mention of phase 1 repairs. I'm interested to know if those are complete. Question number 2, is there any concern for the health and welfare of the pool staff while the repairs are underway? And this is in light of the fact that apparently humidity levels have recently been somewhat uncomfortable for some of the pool users, and our working conditions within WorkSafe BC regulations. So I think I'll do a check-in and just ask if there are any staff members who can address any of those questions.
Through the mayor, there are not, but I am confident I can get those answers quickly and bring them back to council.
Okay, great. And that being the case, then I presume a motion to receive the memo would be appropriate. I'll move that.
Thank you. And I'll second that. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you so much. And we have no minutes referred from the consent agenda. Business arising from the minutes. Any business arising? No. We have no committee minutes or reports. Any council notice of motion? No. No. We have no council or staff in-camera announcements. We have no unscheduled public attendance. Open question period. If anyone has any clarifying questions to ask on our work today, I'm seeing shaking heads in the gallery. No. And on to council or staff announcements. Councillor French.
Thanks, Mayor. On Thursday, I had the honor of participating in a Capilano University Leadership Course video conference call with Mayor Herford participating and Councillor Pettingill as well. We were chatting with some program participants who are newcomers to Squamish, interested in community leadership. They were interested in local government and the future of our community. We answered some really great questions to issues ranging from daycare to municipal election results and development. And I thought it was an hour well spent with some keen new Squamish residents. And that's all I have for tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton.
Thanks very much. So this was some great news from the library board. There was recently received the library receives a regular provincial enhancement grant, and in addition to the regular $97,000 of our regular provincial enhancement grant, the library received a one-time additional grant of $139,000 to be used over the next 3 years, which is fantastic news. This is a one-time targeted enhancement grant. It's intended to supplement the local government funding and is not intended to replace it. And so I look forward to seeing how the library can use this funding to make it an even more amazing place. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Stoner.
Thank you, through the chair. Just a brief update. A few weeks ago was a SLRD meeting, and I can't remember if we've actually reported back out on that to this group since that meeting. Have we? No. Okay. My sense of time is a little bit mixed at the moment. A few things that came out of that meeting that I think are probably relevant to this council and to our staff, in particular at Committee of the Whole. Well, first of all, we adopted our budget, which is always a very exciting time. Regional district budgets are a little bit more complex and nuanced than municipal budgets, so it's great to have that squared away. And then at the Committee of the Whole for the board meeting, we had a really robust discussion on community amenity contributions and how they relate to growth pressures in the electoral areas and the interface of that with municipalities. So that is still a live conversation, but I also just want to bring it up at this table so that folks around this council chamber know that that conversation is happening, as well as staff are aware that there may be some requests from the regional district to continue to engage in those conversations around better understanding what the impacts are of some very large master plan communities, in particular Furry Creek, Britannia Beach, on the impacts for the district of Squamish. Similarly, kind of Wedgwoods for Whistler. So we're definitely not the only ones that are dealing with this, but it's we're trying to come to a more robust solution and transparent solution on our CAC contributions in the regional district and the impact on municipalities. So that's a really interesting conversation at that table right now. Also, they made a proclamation for Pitch In Week in April, and they are trying to encourage all the neighboring or municipalities to also pitch in on Pitch In Week. So I just want to bring that up here, that the bar has been raised at the SLRD level for us to participate. Last but not least, we are halfway through UBCM's Housing BC Together conference. Today was the first day. I had the pleasure of sitting on a panel with MP Beach, who's a parliamentary secretary to Chrystia Freeland, the Minister Kalon, Minister of Housing, as well as a few of the mayors from Metro Van and Victoria to talk about rapidly growing communities and accommodating growth. And I just want to thank Mayor Herford, our staff, members of council for helping me come up with some remarks that I could make during that that session. I think we made some really good points about the ability of communities and willingness to try and accommodate growth, but also some of the tensions that we're starting to see and what that is creating. So lots of really fascinating discussions happening down at that conference at the moment. I'm happy to speak to anybody who wants to dig into the details a bit more.
Thank you. Any other updates? Councillor Greenlaw?
Thanks. I recently met with a group called Mind Your Plastics, who take a preventative approach to plastic use reduction. They work with a number of municipalities about switching from compostable materials, which are frequently not actually compostable and really bog down composting systems in municipalities, to moving to reusable materials. So I've been in communication with them, and they're sending me some information about it. And so look forward to hearing more about that.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands, I'll go to my update. Thank you, Councillor French, for the reminder of the CAPU leadership group. That was great to join you there, and Councillor Pettingill was the third. There was three of us, and it's great to see so many folks just interested in the not only the work that we do, the outcomes, but the processes, and I think we're in good hands. The future is bright. We've got some strong leaders coming up. I attended day one of the UBCM Housing BC Together conference today. I found it great to be with my both elected colleagues from the municipal and regional district level, but also having the provincial and federal folks in the room, as well as people doing important work in the housing field. Councillor Stoner's panel was great, and Councillor Stoner did a great job of highlighting the work that has happened in Squamish, and also the sort of where the friction points are in as we set out to address the housing crisis. There are a lot of communities doing a lot of great things, and I know that I learned a lot being there, and I'm still processing what to do with the learning that I acquired this morning. So and that's only partway through, so I'm curious to see what comes of the other panels going forward tomorrow. On Friday, the 31st, I was had the honor of participating in the opening ceremony for the Youth Center and Foundry, and the blessing of a new totem pole outside that facility from members of the Squamish Nation, and it was quite a moving ceremony for the blessing of the pole, and really took everyone there through the process of arriving there on that day to unveil that pole, and how the land was actually blessed in the beginning and was discussed, and the project came through with the nation step together to get to this place. This isn't a performative public art display. This is an intentional piece of work from the beginning, and I think that really sets the tone that we should be working, not just working towards, but striving to achieve in as many aspects as we can. So it was great to see, to be part of that ceremony, to get a tour of the facility. It was truly remarkable. And right at the end, they had all of the, sort of, I guess we'll say the officials or the dignitaries there to go through the process. And there was a distinct shift change when the youth showed up after school. And it was very moving to be there and to see the youth in the space and to see the whole system, working as it's supposed to. It was great, and we were outnumbered quickly by youth that wanted to be in their space doing their thing, and it was great. So on Thursday the 30th, the Downtown Business Improvement Association held their first Power Lunch series, and and invited me to speak. So it was great to be there with our downtown businesses, discussing ways that we can work together to improve things for them and for all of us in the downtown area. And on the Tuesday leading up to that, actually, we had following our council meeting, we had a meet and greet with the Chamber of Commerce, their board, which I think all the council was able to attend, and it's great to see our business community taking sort of creating these ways to interact with us as we go about our business and processes, and find ways to interact with them. So I always find those get-togethers can be very, very productive, and I always come away with a new perspective on a topic or 10 as I go through those. And I think that's my update for now. So that concludes mine. And with that, we're on to item 22. If we could have a motion to close. Moved by Councillor Stoner, second by Councillor Hamilton. All in favor? Motion carries. And we'll take a quick recess as we set up the room for close. So thank you.